becomes a direct band gap semiconductor. There's a big change in the electronic structure. And then you can study this by wonderful electron microscopy. I showed a typical micrograph recorded in my laboratory using the aberration-free microscope. You can see every atom here beautifully in single layer. Molybdenum selenide, tungsten selenide. Similar pictures of molybdenum sulfide we have also got, but you can have single layer or two layer. You can characterize the images completely. Now, Raman spectroscopy is very, very important. Not only in this, but all of nanocarbons. If you remember, without Raman spectroscopy, we could never have completely characterized nanotubes. Without Raman spectroscopy, single-walled nanotubes cannot be characterized without Raman spectroscopy. It's much more so with graphene. Without Raman, you cannot study graphene. I mean, those who say they're doing graphene without Raman, well, God bless them. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. But if you really want to do outstanding research in any of these nanomaterials, particularly nanotubes and the graphene, Raman spectroscopy is absolutely essential. Well, they have done molybdenum sulfide Raman spectroscopy. You see, there are the two modes, the A1G and the E12G modes are the most important modes of molybdenum sulfide. What happens is when you single layer, if you make from bulk to single layer, the A1G mode frequency decreases. In other words, the band softens, but the E12G mode frequency increases. In other words, the band stiffens. So you can see the band positions of these two modes vary with the thickness, vary with the number of layers, very serious, very, very drastically. Now, you remember I told you about lithium intercalation. Every day I'm learning new science, new chemistry. That's what I want to tell you. You know, age has nothing to do with learning. Actually, we had done lithium intercalation to make single layer. Then we didn't realize what was layer. Then you know that structure of that is completely different from the ordinary MOS2 stable structure. The stable MOS2 has what is known as the 2H structure, trigonal prismatic coordination of molybdenum. However, when to make the lithium intercalation, immediately structure changes to octahedral coordination and MOS2 becomes metallic. So that single layer I make is completely metallic. You remember, ordinary MOS2 I had shown you earlier is a direct band gap semiconductor. So this MOS2 is different. So you can see the Raman spectrum on top of 1T MOS2 is completely different from 2H MOS2, completely different. The same is 1T MOSE2 metallic is completely different from 2H MOSE2, which is stable form. The coordination of these is different. 2H MOS2, trigonal prismatic molybdenum, 1T MOS2 will be octahedral MOS2. So this aspect is something that I will use it for some properties very soon. Well, many properties, I'll quickly go through a few properties just to show you some of the things. If you remember, graphene is known to be, show weak ferromagnetism because the edge effects and defects. Same with MOS2 sheets, they show weak ferromagnetism. And because again, the edges, I showed you the zigzag edges of graphene, defects in, just like the zigzag edges of graphene, zigzag edges in the MOS2, MOSE2, or the defects in these materials are responsible for the weak ferromagnetism. And also, this is a very amazing thing. If you take bulk graphene, there is no photoluminescence. If you make single layer, you see the black one here, absolutely flat. If you make single layer, my God, you get an enormous photo intensity. But the most intense photoluminescence spectrum I've ever seen, huge photoluminescence, we make single layer. And this is very useful. A lot of biologists are using it for making sensors and so on. And this is the kind of thing that is happening. See, all this work is in the last 3-4 years, don't forget. So nothing is old, so a lot of work can be done in this area. Now, well, for those who may not know, when nanotubes and graphene and so on, we had done a number of things like interaction of molecules with it. For example, electron donor molecules, electron acceptor molecules. You put an electron donor molecule, like tetrahydrofullvaline, the Raman spectrum and electronic structure of graphene and nanotube shape changes. Similarly, we put an electron withdrawing molecule on it, it is also changing. In other words, electron donor molecule is like donating electrons. Electron withdrawing molecules is like donating holes to either graphene and nanotube. The same thing we tried to do with MOS2. What we found was you cannot put electron withdrawing molecules at all, nothing happens. However, if you put electron donor molecule like tetraethyl, immediately it gives an entire electron and it becomes a radical cation. In fact, what I have the spectrum of the radical cation of tetraethyl is the thing. And immediately that layer becomes metallic. Pardon, Nandakumar? I get very disturbed. So the top layer becomes metallic. I'm an old-fashioned teacher here, excuse me. Please don't negotiate things now. So the top layer of MOS2 becomes metallic when you put electrons through a molecule. So these are very interesting. Well, I have not done much research on it after doing this and some theoretical calculations on that. This is the kind of research that is attracting enormous attention in today's condensed matter physics. In MIT, for example, there are people working on when you put molecules on a solid surface, inorganic surface, what happens to the top layer, the kind of interactions that is very, very interesting. And this has yet to be investigated much more. I have not done much, except to show that the electron is donated completely to the surface by something like tetraethyl. We have made transistors. Many people have made transistors of MOS2. You see, graphene by itself, you cannot make a good transistor because it has no gapless. So we usually create a gap by doping and so on, and can make transistors. Now, in the case of MOS2, it is a direct band gap semiconductor in the stable form. You can make very good transistors. And this one I am showing is really amazing because this was done by KISS. It was published in Nature Nanotechnology in 2011, three years ago. He found a very high mobility and the on-off ratio of 10 to the power of 8. Very, very fantastic transistor properties with MOS2. So this is why MOS2 is very interesting. We have also done a lot of things. We have looked at hysteresis phenomena in MOS2 transistors. We had a paper in ACS-NANO in 2012 and a number of things. Even the worst MOS2 transistor we have made in the lab has an on-off ratio of 10 to the power of 6. Huge on-off ratios. So, a lot of applications, people have made sensors out of it. We have made radiation detectors. In fact, you can put infrared radiation, it detects very nicely. A lot of such applications have come. Gas sensors, this is a paper we just published last year in ACS-NANO. There are many others who have published molecular sensors. Okay, I will spend 2 minutes on this because in this one frame, this talk is not to educate everything on MOS2, to show how much can happen in such a short time, which is created completely new physics which we never knew before. This is one of them. MOS2, molybdenum in MOS2 has a very, very large spin-orbit splitting, the spin-orbit coupling. Because of spin-orbit coupling of molybdenum, it splits the valence bands into K prime, and in the two valleys, in the two valence bands, the carriers are different. The mobility of the carriers is different. The dynamics is different. Absorption of circularly polarized light, left and right circularly polarized light in the two valleys is different. So if you take it, in fact, it gives you, what is amazing is, a single layer, and you take it, because it has no inversion symmetry, it gives the circularly polarized luminescence. You see that peak. The minute you make two layers, it goes away. Only a single layer gives it. Only a single layer gives you this polarized luminescence, mainly because of this absence of inversion symmetry. You make two layers, there is inversion symmetry, so you lose it out. So the exclusive properties of single layer MOS2 in this, with respect to circularly polarized light, polarized luminescence, all that is really something that you have to really study much more about. People have used MOS2 in lithium-ion batteries with very good performance. We have used in catalysis because molybdenum sulfide is well known to desulfurization, transformation of thiophene to butane, and very good results with that. So many such things have been done. But what is the most interesting part of MOS2 is the work we have done in the last 1 year or two on using MOS2 to split water to give hydrogen. In our laboratory, we have a fairly serious program on artificial photosynthesis. I'm not going to talk about that today. Artificial photosynthesis is a separate area, and I'm not going to talk about it. However, we also do dye-sensitized splitting of water using materials like MOS2. Well, to do that, you need certain criteria. The material you use must have a conduction band more negative than the reduction potential of protons, or valence band should be more negative positive than the oxidation potential of water. This gap here is 1.23 eV, so the conduction band should be above that, valence band should be below that. So you can see selenium sulfide is very good, zinc oxide isn't bad, molybdenum sulfide is right here, perfect fitting of this, you see, conduction band and valence band. And we have looked, and of course, for those who remember history of chemistry, nitrogenase, all these hydrogenase, all these enzymes have molybdenum in it, and people even said you can produce hydrogen from that. Well, so there are people who did that. There are papers last 3-4 years, MOS2 nanoparticles, when they split water, where it does gives you little hydrogen. It is enough to prove the concept, but not enough to produce lots of hydrogen. So if you want to do a lot of that, you have to do something else. So one of the things, I'll only show one result of ours. For example, we have done dye-sensitized production of hydrogen using MOS2. Use an eosine dye, excite the electron, go to triplet state, then it picks up an electron from an amine, triethanolamine, and becomes a negatively charged species that is very unstable, that gives away the electron to MOS2. I've used graphene as a channel for electrons. Actually, it could only, and this electron reduces the proton to water. So this is the kind of thing we used. We had a very paper in Angewandte Chemie in 2013 on this kind of a dye-sensitized production of hydrogen by splitting water. So when we did this, you see, we got this result. MOS2 ordinary, very little hydrogen comes out, 0.05 millimoles per gram, very little, very small turnover factor. The minute I put a little bit of graphene oxide, the millimoles went from 0.5 to 3, slight increase in turnover factor. Then we nitrogenated graphene oxide to increase the conduction, then we got 10 millimoles, and with a turnover factor of 3 almost. That is with just a 100-watt lamp. By the way, for those who work in this area, people use very powerful light. You shouldn't use that. 100 watt is just about ordinary sunlight. 400 watt also you can use. To be sure of the results my students get, I do not allow them to use too powerful lamp. I want to use a very mild lamp, only 100 watt. Because the minute you use 400 watt, you can see we get 42 millimoles of hydrogen per hour. And then the turnover factor goes to 11. So this was the result, which was unbelievable for us. So this is the paper in Angewandte Chemie, and we got so much hydrogen out with such a high turnover factor. So immediately, we said, look, why use graphene as a channel for electrons? Why don't I make MOS2 itself a highly conducting MOS2? Remember that we had made 1T MOS2, which is metallic when I exfoliate with lithium. So we use that, and of course this is just a characterization of 1T MOS2 in electron microscopy. And when we did that work, and the result was, of course, I'm trying to show you the difference between 1T and 2H MOS2 in coordination and so on. And the electron is given directly to the YZ orbital of 1T MOS2. And then the result we got, you see, I go from MOS2, nitrogenated MOS2, now go to 1T MOS2, just with a 100-watt lamp, got 26 millimoles. Very high. And of course, if you use 400, I will get about 80 or 70 millimoles. I'm not using that. So very high quantity of hydrogen, very large turnover factor. So this is the result we got some time ago. That was in Angewandte Chemie. Well, then we did some theoretical work along with a colleague of ours, Professor Wagmare, who showed that if you use 1T MOSE2 instead of S2, it has a better work function and electron affinity favorable for this process. So we did that. And you see, when we did that, I'm giving a lot of results in 2 minutes. 20 MOSU2, we got 62 millimoles of hydrogen. You see, this is a record. I don't think any one material I know has ever given hydrogen like this with a turnover factor of 15. By the way, for those who may not know, let me tell you, well, this was wonderful. But science is not like that. Everything is not positive. Something goes wrong. Unfortunately, even though 1T MOS2, 1T MOS2 are so good, they're all unstable, very unstable. Unfortunately, we cannot use them as well as we could. So how to stabilize these phases is my problem now. So good solid state chemistry, if some of you can stabilize it, I'll be happy. Not easy, we're trying hard. Make stable 1T MOS2 and MOSU2, which you can keep for some time. Otherwise, as soon as you make, we use it and that's the end of it. You can't keep it forever. So that's a problem. So this is one of the nice results we have got. Well, this paper has just come in a special issue of Applied Physics Letters just a few weeks ago, and a special issue on 2D materials. Okay. Coming back to MOS2, what are all the other things? Well, in this frame, I summarized probably about 30-40 major papers. It wrote very interesting field emission with low turn-on. Lot of work on use of supercapacitors. In fact, just recently, we have done MOS2 with polyaniline and so on. We have been able to get supercapacitors of the order of 600 to 700 farads per gram. Very, very high capacitance, a bit unstable, but we can improve on that. So MOS2 is a very good material for supercapacitors. And a bit of physics here. Those who are physicists here are theoretically minded. Let me tell you. In a single layer MOS2, people have discovered a new quasi-particle. A new quasi-particle. What is this quasi-particle? These are two papers in Nature last year. Lot of physics is just coming out. These two electrons and one hole put together forms a new quasi-particle, and with a fairly large bending energy, a couple of 100 milli-electron volts. So that means you can study them at ordinary temperatures, these quasi-particles. A lot of work has to be done on that. And you see the trions, these are called trions. It gives a new kind of physics. I'm not going to work on it because I'm more of a chemist, a chemical physicist, whatever. It's a bit too much physics for me. I'm going to stop it. Let the physicists handle trions. Valley physics is something, I told you electrons in the two valleys of MOS2 are different. There's a lot of material coming out. People are using the word valectronics, just like electronics, because the valectronics have a valley index. It's just like the spin of an electron. It has just like a valley index you can give, and it has a new kind of valley physics that is coming out. You see, what I'm trying to show you is that in that 5 years of its existence, I remember still the day one of my PhD students made single layer MOS2 5-6 years ago. Those days on now, the entire subject has become very, very expanded, very exciting. In fact, much more exciting. Physics is much more exciting than graphene in many ways. The electrons here, MOS2, are really fantastic. Because people have predicted superconductivity, ferroelectricity, a whole bunch of things. There are a lot of papers that have come out. In fact, for those interested, I was asked to write a Frontiers article in Chemical Physics Letters a few weeks ago. I have a Frontiers article in this journal for those interested. Well, many other materials were made. We made gallium sulfide and gallium selenide. They are exactly like graphite. We have made very nice single layer gallium selenide, single layer gallium sulfide. You can see the atomic force microscopy and also optical images here of these materials. We have made a study of these gallium sulfide and gallium selenide. Raman spectroscopy as a function of number of layers. We have made transistors out of that. We have a paper in advanced material a couple of years ago on that. Well, not very good transistors, but anyway, we can make them. And as of last week, some theoretical prediction is that gallium sulfide layers must produce hydrogen just by putting water. In fact, we just put some water and gallium sulfide, it produces hydrogen. But it's not going to be very competitive with small amount of hydrogen. It's not like molybdenum sulfide. Okay, and we have made boron nitride by ordinary high temperature reaction. of boric acid and urea, and you can study that, and then you can see the very nice electron microscopy giving you every atom positions, few layer boron nitride, a number of things of this kind. And boron nitride again has very interesting properties. For those who may remember, a lot of people put boron nitride as in polymers to strengthen it, but don't put tons of boron nitride. Only put a little bit of single layer, a little bit of two layer boron nitride. It will strengthen more. That's what we tried to show in one paper in 2011. And we've also been doing a work on a new family of material called borocarbonitride, BCN. Remember, carbon, one end, graphene is a conducting limit, one end, boron nitride is another. Put boron nitride and carbon together. There are a number of things one can do. This is a very big area of research. These are not homogeneous materials, but they are layered materials. They will be like composites, but very interesting materials, very high surface area. For example, we have got very high surface area of carbon dioxide and with good selectivity of CO2 or nitrogen. In fact, these kinds of materials are the ones which may be good for sequestration of carbon dioxide. You see, people work on metal organic frameworks and all. But nice chemistry, but nobody will use it. So expensive. But all these metal organic frameworks, although they are very unstable, break up into bits. So borocarbonitride is a cheap chemical. All you need is activated charcoal, boric acid, and urea. So all of them you can buy tons of it for a few dollars. So you can make these borocarbonitrides. So there's a lot of scope for this kind of a layered material. By the way, supercapacitor, oxygen reduction reaction, borocarbonated, instead of platinum you can use borocarbonitride. You can get very good oxygen reduction in a fuel cell. I'm not going to say more. A lot of work has been done in this area. I'll end my talk to show the variety of work that can be done. You can take oxides, let's say molybdenum trioxide. You can make, you see there is a layered structure. I can pull out one layer. In fact, you can study one layer, you can right away see the change in spectroscopy. You can use it for many purposes. Such layers, particularly for high dielectric materials, because this is a work in Japan, where they have lifted off LaNb2O7 or Ca2Nb3O10, just one layer, by intercalation or some other method. So these are very useful as dielectric layers. For those who know in photovoltaics, you are doing dielectric layer, we can use such things as dielectric layers produced by simple exfoliation. Well, we have also done open framework structures of carbon. So for example, you can take an open framework structure like a zip-8, a zinc imidazole structure, very, very well known metal organic framework. We made composites of that with graphene, with showing very interesting properties of surface, with very high surface area, as well as very high carbon dioxide uptake. We have also taken graphene, linked them, do organic chemistry, use a Sonogashira coupling, using linkers, connect graphene layers, and made a porous solid, which is all carbon porous structure with fairly good adsorption, fairly good surface properties. Lastly, this is the last frame I will show. I'm rushing because I won't stop in 45 minutes. We have made recently nanocomposites of zip-8 with boron nitride. Remember, metal organic frameworks are very flimsy, they break up. However, if I take one layer of boron nitride, which is very strong, on that I grow zip-8, then you see the surface properties don't change, mechanical properties are much better. So mechanical properties show a big increase at a particular composition, and this is another thing that has just come out in recently. For those who may not know, Materials Horizon is a new journal of Royal Society of Chemistry. They are putting it up to compete with advanced materials. Whether they will succeed, I'm not sure. In the first issue, I have got this paper. I'm on their editorial board, so I sent one paper. So this is the kind of material we have done. So what I've tried to show today is to show how inorganic layered material, single layer, two layer, maybe full layer, has tremendous possibilities. Well, I am not a young man. I'm 81 years old. But younger people, I wish they take up these areas. There's so much to be done. but you have to pick the right problem, right area. It's already a bit late. Beryllium sulfide, if younger people had done that, they probably should have done more. There's a lot of work to be done in there. Also, this in my own learning process. Now, when I started working in this area after graphene about 5 years ago, I never expected I would end up in an area where it's so crowded that people think I'm one of the grandfathers of this subject. But anyway, it has been a very nice experience. Well, these are all some of the students who work in the laboratory. So thank you.
Any questions to Professor Rao?
No. Molecular structure, these are all the areas I worked in the United States. I've already competitive type of research in this area. Well, I used to borrow, beg, and somehow do some spectroscopy, but never had a spectrometer of my own where I could do things. In fact, I had to wait many years before I could have a spectrometer in my own. Because of this, in 1959-60, I decided to pick an area of research where I can do something in spite of the bad facilities and still be noticed in some way. That is how I picked solid state chemistry as my area of research in 1959-60, and that has been a great choice. I usually cite a poem by Robert Frost. Many of you know that. I don't remember the exact words. It says, I was going in the yellow woods, I saw two paths going, two paths, one where everybody traveled by, one the other one less traveled by. So I picked the one less traveled, that is solid state chemistry, which the subject didn't exist at that time at all, really. There are hardly half a dozen people in Europe, one or two maybe in the US who are working on it, and that's how I started. In fact, many people even now think that I am one of the oldest solid state chemists, or grandfather of the subject. So it was a very right choice. So slowly, of course, went on building things. It is only in the last 20 years or so I have a very well equipped lab, everything I want. So out of the 55 years of research, the first 30 years were either no facilities, or poor facilities, or marginal facilities, or just some subcritical facilities, always like that. But I would not give up research, that is the thing. So amazingly, in spite of our inadequate facilities, we could do some very important things in spite of that. Always try to bring in some skill, some chemical intuition. You see, that is the beauty of chemistry. See. Physics, it may not be true. Certainly in chemistry, that chemical intuition you can use to do many, many clever things which you may not do otherwise. So somehow we have been able to make things, measure things, do structures of all kinds and so on for the last so many years. Well, somebody says, how come you have published so many? Some people do make jokes about it. But I tell you, if you really are working every day of your life, almost every day, as many of us as I have tried to do, you would also be published that many papers. But most people don't work hard. Most people don't, in fact, work. In fact, and most of the work they do is repetitive and they don't think about what they are doing. But I spend a lot of time worrying about what I do every morning. And that has been very useful. It's worrying about what one does. In fact, I have spent, I think when I was young, many, many sleepless nights worrying about what I should do, how I should do. That has been a problem with me. And that has been enjoyable as well. The sleepless nights are also enjoyable because usually you end up with something useful after that. But more than that, I think doing science itself has been a reward. And I don't want any other reward. Of course, I have received all kinds of awards. But when Dan David Prize came, in fact, I don't think you know. One day I went to the office. I had a telegram, or those days email, let us say, not telegram, from somebody in America. Congratulations, this big award you have got. I didn't even know. My secretary didn't know what it was. I was out of town for one day, so she had taken this thing that I had got about the award under a bunch of books. Eventually I traced it, that I had received this award from the people who gave me the award. Well, it was a $1 million award. I hope you know that. It's a very big one. But I shared it with George Whitesides and so on. Well, just like that, when I got the very first award, you may not know that, I was about 30 and odd years old. The first award I ever got in my life was from the Faraday Society in England, which is now merged with the Chemical Society. It's now part of the Royal Society of Chemistry. There is no Faraday Society anymore. Those days it used to be that they were the ones who gave me Marlowe Medal in 1966 or 67, I don't remember. So, it is like that. So it has been wonderful. And similarly, I became a member of the Indian Academy of Science when I was just about 29 years old, 30 years old. C.V. Raman was very kind to make me a member of the Academy. Things like that. People have been very good. But I cannot thank any individual really for anything that I have got. It has been that is not important. The more important thing is I thank the opportunities I got to go on doing research. And now you see, now I'm in my 81st year, so I'm still doing. In fact, I enjoy doing it. In fact, I just gave a talk this morning on one aspect of the work I'm doing. I'm doing many other things other than what I talked about. But I think these things keep me very happy and active. Well, what will you do in the next few years? Nothing else. I will go on doing research. I'm still publishing about 25 to 30 papers a year, and I hope to continue at least for some more time. And I still have several students working with me, and I hope I'll continue. Lastly, I think I believe that people should be allowed to work in science as long as they want, if they're really excited about working, and they should be given all the facilities, and I hope our country will do so. Help everybody who wants to work, and not allow them to retire or do something else. The future for me is also, but I hope that India, I've worked for India a lot, Indian science in India. I do hope that in the years to come, India will become a great country in science. That is one of my dreams. So I remember when C.V. Raman used to ask me quite a bit, when I was a young professor in Kanpur, IIT, to come and give lectures in the academy. Last time he asked me to was once it was 1969. We celebrated his 80th birthday. I was one of the young speakers at the time. After that lecture, he came and said, "My God, what a wonderful lecture you gave, young man," and all that. The way the Raman used to talk. I went away. The next year, 1971, I got a letter, a personal letter. "Dear Rao, you must come and give a lecture in Bangalore. I'll be there. Poor old man, he was 80 at that time. He was sitting in the front listening to my lecture. I gave a lecture on the structure of water, liquid water. It's a very interesting subject. I used to work on it at that time. And he gave, what a wonderful lecture. Then he went on telling me, Professor Rao, what makes me feel bad is that India is not one of the top countries in science. I feel very bad about that. He was 80. Now I am 80, I feel the same way. Why is it we are not at top? It is only because we have no money? No, I don't think so. It is nothing to do with money alone. It is true that we need more money. Government spends very little. Our investment in education is horrid. I think spending 2% of GDP in education is disgraceful for this country. If they should spend at least 6%, we should spend more money for science. All that I agree. I've been a champion of that. Forgetting that, have we as scientists done enough? Have we really worked hard enough? Have we really dedicated ourselves to our students? In fact, bringing up young people is one of the most important things as a teacher, like teachers like us who also do research. Just doing research alone is not enough, but bringing up young boys and girls. So it has been, have we done that? Always I worry about it. I somehow think we as scientists also have probably not done enough. Maybe otherwise we would have been much better off. Well, anyway, this worries me even now. Other than that, I feel that the opportunities being provided now, or improved opportunities if they are provided, I don't see any reason in about 10 years India can really become a much better country in science, very famous in many areas of science. I would like to close by people talking about thank my wife and me, and kind of the undivided love I have for my wife. By the way, somebody said, is she second or first? There's no such thing, When Hillary, Edmund Hillary and Tain Singh, Narke climbed Everest when I was a young man, you remember. They were asked who climbed it first. They wouldn't say. They climbed both together. In everything I have done, we climbed everything together. So we've been married for almost 54 years. It's a long marriage, and with long time we've been married. It's been wonderful. And one thing, before I close, it's not a joke, it's serious. It's a very, very happy family and loyal family, even loyalty to family, is an essential ingredient for success in all fields. You will be successful in anything you do if you have a very nice, happy family. If you're always fighting with your wife, you will not do good research. You're all shouting at her, or she shouts at you, equally bad. I think you must not lose your temper and become angry. Anger, there are three qualities I know which are negative. Anger, animosity, jealousy eat up science. You are very jealous of people, you can't do good science. You are angry, you can't do good science. So that's why I never fought with my wife. And in fact, what I have done is a joke apart. See, we have portfolios, These government prime ministers take so much trouble to assign portfolios. I had no problem in my house. I have given her food and civil supplies as one of her portfolios. And recently tourism also as a portfolio. And a few years ago I gave finance ministry also to her. And then the last several years she's also been a home minister. So what is it I have, what is the power I have in life? I am in charge of external affairs. So I decide what happens in United Nations. Everything else she does. So I tell you, I've been one of the happiest men having a wife like that. But between good science and a good wife, life has been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure listening.